Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday morning coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. It's a little bit chilly out there for us today. I think we're going to be in the low 60s, but it's not going to keep me from hitting the golf course. So great to have you here. Question of the day. What is your unique value proposition? Do you know what your unique value proposition is that really makes you stand out from the crowd? That all your people know what that is so that they are living into that value proposition and, more importantly, prospering from that value proposition? Well, that is step 4 of the story cycle system, and that's what we are going to cover today. So let us know, what is your unique value proposition? And let you know how we kind of sneak up on that. Now, today, serendipity happened in that I'm driving into the office and I get cut off, almost wiped out by a water truck. I want to show you a picture of this. Sparklet's water truck, actually. And then I did something I don't typically do, I took a picture of it. You can't really see it here. And the reason why I took a picture of it was because of kind of the unique value proposition that they offered up in this simple little story. Actually, I got a better version of it. On the back of the truck, they had a poster that basically says this, tea, coffee, hot chocolate, way more than just water. And they were sending you to water.com, their website. Now, what I like about this little story is, what is Sparklet's doing? Sparklets isn't telling you a story about what they make. What they make is water. They make and deliver a commodity, water. But what they're doing is telling you a story about what they make happen. So their water is an absolute essential ingredient to the little niceties in life, that little spot of tea, that cup of coffee, that warm, frothy, hot chocolate. So they are talking about, Sparklets is way more than water. They're not selling what they make, but they sell what they make happen. And I think that's where your unique value proposition really comes in. So be thinking about what your unique value proposition is as we move through this. So today in the story cycle process, as I mentioned, we are in chapter 4. Chapter 4 being disruption. And the great thing about disruption is what feeds your unique value proposition. So you've heard me say this many times before. You can't sell into status quo unless you're the low price leader. And you don't want to be the low price leader because there's no margin in it. So you want to elevate your brand in the hearts and minds of your customers, just like Sparklets did with their commodity of water. So how do you do that? Well, in the first 3 steps of the process, we talked about what do you do physically and functionally better than anybody else. And that's step 1, your backstory, understanding your number 1 position in the marketplace. Number 2, who cares? Chapter 2 is all about who's your hero, who's the center of your story, who cares about that number 1 position of what it is you do. What's at stake? So what's at stake for the brand is number 3, and what's at stake for your customer by adopting your brand and buying into your brand, what do they stand to gain? And by remaining in status quo, what do they stand to lose? So today, chapter 4 is about disruption. What has happened in the marketplace that makes your offering more timely and more relevant now than ever, much more so and differentiated than your competition? And or what are you doing to disrupt the marketplace to make you even that much more relevant? So step 4 is all about understanding the story tension of disruption in the marketplace, because it ultimately feeds into your brand storytelling and to your unique value proposition. So I want to share a story with you about a company that I helped last year. We're just coming up on it, but last year I was at Social Media Marketing World and I was doing my storytelling workshop. And after the 90-minute session, which again I'm doing this year on Wednesday, the 22nd, March 22nd at noon. So if you're showing up, please come by the Business of Story workshop and I'll workshop you through all of this. Anyways, in the 600 folks that attended last year's workshop, it was just a terrific gathering. I had one gentleman contact me afterwards. He came up to me, Andre Martin Hobbs, and he's French-Canadian from Quebec, just a wonderful gentleman. And he and I got to talking. And since then, I've been working with Andre and their company, which is a used car dealership. More than that, it's for subprime buyers. So people that have had, the recession caught up to them. They got bit in the backside. Their finances went down the drain and they've been riding the bus. They just haven't been able to afford anything. And now they're getting back on their feet to afford a new vehicle. Well, Andre has been servicing this market, and in and of itself, servicing that market is a commodity. There's a lot of people that do it. There are, predatory companies that go in and just charge high rates, get you into that vehicle, and off you go, knowing that they're probably going to get that vehicle back in a few months and do it all over again and make a ton of money. Well, that's not what Andre's about. In fact, their company is completely disrupting the market. Maybe you can say this name better than I. It's French. Autoprêt Pâté. Autoprêt Pâté. That is the new name of his company. And in English, it essentially means ready, set, go. And what is so interesting about this and what their unique value proposition is, they weren't waiting for a market disruption. They want to be the disruptor in the market and create a niche that would completely separate themselves from the other used car sales folks that, were working with subprime buyers. So they went through the process. And in step one, as we worked with you a couple shows ago, what is the industry is in? We want to dial in his number one position in the marketplace. Industry, automotive. So he's in the automotive industry. Now we want to know what category are they in? Used cars. All right. A lot of people are in the used car business, not all of them selling to subprime buyers. So his specialty are subprime loans. But here's where the magic starts coming for Andre and his folks. Autoprêt Pâté is the number one resource for subprime car buyers to purchase a vehicle and begin repairing their credit. Therein lies the beauty of his thing. They are not just about selling people cars. They are about using that automobile purchase to help them truly repair their credit. And here's the magic to their magic secret sauce is before they will sell anybody a car, they need to go through a free financial planning program where they sit down with the buyer for a couple, 3 hours, look at their finances, try to figure out what kind of car loan could they actually use, be able to afford and make happen in that finances so that they can remain in that car for a minimum of 2 years and ultimately repair their credit. Literally, Andre and his team are using the used car market to subprime buyers to help them repair their credit, not just to sell them cars. So he says they show up often just to buy a car, and they don't even realize that they're actually getting financial planning advice in the process, and they're simply using that car to get there. So that's the beauty of it. Goes through who cares about this. Well, certainly the car buyer cares about it. The banks care about because the banks know that they can give Andre financing for their cars, and they know that it's not going to go sideways. That for the most part, they've done everything they can through his company to make sure that that car buyer is buying the right car at the right price and can afford it and have that 2-year plan to repair their credit. So after 2 years, they could buy a new car if they like to. So here's where it comes in. We know what's at stake is these folks want the freedom of driving. They just want the freedom of getting out of the bus and driving again. Literally, that's what's at stake for them emotionally. They also want the freedom of getting their finances back so that they don't have to worry about that. And Andre's company deals with both of these. So what we did then is took them through this 5 steps in the second chapter of the story cycle system. You go through this, and you can write this down and do this for yourself to identify what your unique value proposition is, because that's what we want to do at this phase of the story cycle system. So for them, we answer that question: audiences for subprime car buyers, stakes, who want a car that they can rely on and be proud of while rebuilding their credit. The mentor. The brand is the mentor. Remember, they're the guide or the mentor in this story. Autoprêt Pâté is the number one resource in Quebec to help them get back on the road to financial freedom. Now we have to proof that against their competitors. Unlike traditional car dealerships that are interested in the quick sale with little to no regard for the financial well-being of their customers, and here's their offering. Autoprêt, my French is horrible. Autoprêt Pâté provides fiscal knowledge, individualized economic guidance, realistic loans, and like new vehicles, that transport their buyers to a new level of accountability and self-esteem. To a new level of accountability and self-esteem. So you see how they're really dialing in not simply what they make a car transaction happen, but it's what they really make happen, and that's freedom. Freedom of being on the road, transporting you into this new part of your life, and the freedom of getting your finances back. That all boils then down to the simplest of unique value propositions. For Autopré is your vehicle to financial freedom. The company is your vehicle to financial freedom. So when they are hiring salespeople, they don't hire just regular old salespeople. They actually hire financial planning salespeople because it works within their story. It delivers on the story. And then when they are recruiting and building that culture around, they let everybody know this isn't about just selling a car. This is about selling a vehicle that gets our customers back on the road to financial freedom. This car is literally their vehicle to financial freedom. So you see how this broke down through this 4 steps of the story cycle system. First, understanding functionally, what do you do better than anybody else? Number 2, who's the hero in the story? Who cares about what you do and that you can help them on their way to the freedom, whatever they're looking for? Number 3, what's at stake for them? What's at stake for you as the organization? What's at stake for them buying in? And what's at stake for them if they do absolutely nothing? And then 4 is we really look at the disruption in the marketplace to dial in your unique value proposition about what you do in the marketplace to help bridge the gaps for your customers, get them from point A to point B. In their case, literally transport them into the freedom of having a vehicle, freedom of having their finances back, and freedom of seeing what this open road ahead is for them so that they don't let it happen again to themselves. So that's just an example of how they're using the story cycle system to bring them together. Of course, you can get the book online and you can do this yourself at businessofstory.com. Some people buy the book, download the book, work through it to get their brand story straight, and then they send it to me, and I review it and go through and review it with them. So I want to go back to this question of what we asked at the beginning of the show. What is your unique value proposition for your organization? Just go right back through those 5 steps I told you about. Let me grab them. Who's your audience? What's at stake for them? What do you do as the mentor? How do you do that better than your competition? How do you offset that from your competition? And what is your ultimate offering? Write that down and then dial that into your little singular sentence, unique value proposition that all of your people can live into and prosper from, your internal staff, your customers, and everybody along the line. Because, that's what this is all about. When you get your story straight, you help get it straight for everybody, and life just gets a heck of a lot better in the process. So anyways, that's my show for today. Great to have you here. Join me next week, 10 a.m., when we'll be back with Chapter 5 of the Story Cycle System. And that is when we're talking about the villains, fog, and crevices in your story. Villains, who's that external competition that's trying to take your market away? And what's that internal voice yipping at you about saying, maybe you're not good enough, fast enough, strong enough to pull this off. How do you overcome that? Number 2, fog. What are the blind spots in your story? And what are the blind spots your customers have about you that you need to clear that fog away and expose them to your story? And then the crevices. What are the gaps in your story and your performance, and how can you bring those together? Get real with those, and you'll see that your story will become more authentic than ever and more powerful and rise above the noise of the attention economy. So thank you so much for joining us here today, Facebook Live, the Park Howell Show on Business of Story, and I'll see you next Friday, and have a wonderful time in the meantime. Thanks.